Oh, you're supplanting them? That's quite the undertaking.
Yeah, well, it's a figure of speech. It's not as though I'm trying to get flags of revolt waving in the Soul Society or planning to take over in their place. It's just that before Tokunada Tsuneyashiro becomes a household name in the Soul Society through a Seritape Bulletin Extra, I'd like him to concede the seat of head of family. That said, of course we can't make him move publicly. Though, it is very likely they are criminals. The 13 court guard squads can't openly aim their bows at the 4 great noble clans.
In that case, I think you were pretty hard on me when I came to save Rukia.
That's because you are rebelling so openly. In comparison, we're just saying we suspect Tokunada of something. And, if he boasts that it's all for the sake of the Soul Society, there's a chance that his logic might win out.
In other words, since you Soul Reapers can't freely show off your firepower, you're going to try using us as pawns since you couldn't care less about us dying.
It's not that we don't care about you. The current ceasefire is real, after all. I want to honor the bond that we formed when we took you to the Ryokyu as much as I can.
Based on what you're saying, I can assume you're still treating us like we're hostile forces then, can't I?
Right now, you are formally tolerated. I want to assure you we won't lay a hand on you. Though, I guess no matter what way you look at this situation, it seems we've already wronged you in some way.
I wouldn't consider that wronging them. I was just giving them a chance at amnesty. I mean, think about it. Just having me mess them up a little bit will get them a good word from the director of the Department of Research and Development. I think that's a profitable decision with favorable terms.
That sure is one way to describe you trying to kidnap us through brute force.
Ginjo continued to be cautious of Mayuri, and Tsukishima had already put his hand on his bookmark.
Are you looking for an opportunity to insert yourself into my past? Then why don't you just give it a try?
Naturally, I wouldn't place a bookmark into a book that's only made up of a front and back cover.
What do you mean by that, Tsukishima?
He has no past to insert anything into. He probably hasn't been alive for more than a few hours.
What?
I see. So you can see the measure of someone's past before you even stick your blade into them. You've stirred my interest all the more.
So this isn't your true body then, Captain Kurotsuchi.
It was a flesh doll created in Kurotsuchi's form that he was controlling from elsewhere. Shall I think of it as an honor that the director of the Department of Research and Development is wary of me?
Don't speak such nonsense. Obviously anyone would create a vaccine for a virus.
This is stupid. Why do you Soul Reapers think we would have any reason to help you?
I agree. As far as I see it, we've got no reason to borrow help from outsiders. If you're saying go become an enemy now, then it'll sure make this conversation a lot easier and faster for me.
You're the one who killed Neutra, aren't you?
Arankars always bring up that name when they see me. Why? Are you stronger than Neutra?
Don't compare me to someone who's already kicked the bucket.
You are then.
Zaraki smiled and their spiritual pressures began to dominate the atmosphere.
All right. That's enough. Enough. The reason I'm speaking with you all is to offer a token of apology that the Soul Society, that the Soul Reapers have caused you trouble.
An apology?
Even though we're in a ceasefire, telling Arankars, Quincy's, and Fullbringers, who are wanted for killing Soul Reapers, to all get together and rebel against the 4 great noble clans is a scandal in and of itself. It wouldn't be unusual for me to get my head lopped off for something like this. Even now, you continue to hold me at my weakest point as a 13-court guard squad's head captain. Next time there's a dispute in the Soul Society, I think you'll be able to use this favor as a playing card.
Can you make any guarantee that you won't just shut us up after everything's over?
I can declare I won't do such a thing as many times as you'd like, but it's not as though anyone can truly make such a guarantee. However, starting now with Captain Kurotsuchi, I will thoroughly enforce the policy that none of the captains can lay a hand on you.
How can you go and declare that on your own? You think the head captain has the authority to control my department's work?
Actually, I'm shocked that you would think I don't. Well, please, Captain Kurotsuchi. I will plan to accommodate you in whatever way I can next time.
That doesn't inspire much confidence. What reason do I have in the first place to keep quiet about what is going on here?
If I'm fired as head captain, then my successor will likely be Captain Kuchiki. And do you really think that he'll be as lenient towards your research as I am?
You are truly a sneaky man.
Why would you go that far, Soul Reaper?
For the sake of the Soul Society and the world's future. But that's not the entire reason. A man I do not see eye to eye with is trying to do something I don't particularly like. Is it so strange that I would want to cut him down from behind and hinder his progress?
Head Captain!
Yes, it would be very helpful if you understood the opinion I expressed just now is not that of the 13 Court's head captain, but of Shunsui Kyoraku, the individual.
You want to cut someone down? That's way easier for me to agree with. When I fight Kurosaki to the death, don't let any of the Soul Reapers get in the way. Of course, I'd just crush them too, but I don't want to go to all that trouble.
I don't think you need a promise from me for that. Ichigo would likely also want your fight to be one-on-one, I think. I won't interfere with that.
Can you swear that after how you dealt with Stark?
Even in the middle of combat, she knew the details of my battle. Only amateurs would give up a victory for the sake of a code of honor. As a captain, I can't afford such luxury. There's rarely a clear-cut determination of a good side and a bad side in these battles. It's hard to pinpoint who caused what exactly. Once war breaks out, both sides become evil. Yeah, I'll promise you that. But if we have another war against you, then that's a different conversation. But I think the fight that Ichigo wants is something other than war.
Urahara shop, underground facility. In front of Hisagi, there were several humans lined up who had been put to sleep using Kido. Using a combination of Urahara's spiritual pressure sensor merchandise and Tessai's Kido, they had confirmed that there were civilians with slight disruptions in spiritual pressure in the hundreds just within Mitsumiya district. Tessai, Jinta, and Ururu quickly went to put several of them to sleep and brought them down to the underground facility.
It seems they are neither Soul Reapers nor Fullbringers. They do not seem to be possessed by a parasitic hollow either.
Then why is their spiritual pressure abnormal?
It's likely because of this.
Tessai pulled a necklace off of one of the sleepers. Others had a charm of the same design on bracelets or keychains, clearly indicating that they all belong to a shared community. Those things aren't just what's trendy these days, right?
No. All of these decorations bear the symbol of the religious group that the shop manager was looking into. However, more importantly, they are unique in that each one of these has been made into a small circuit that uses reishi.
Circuits? Does that mean they're devices?
Yes. In the past, this would have been a type of prohibited technique. However, several years ago, the ban of them was lifted temporarily as part of a counterplan against Mr. Aizen.
A counterplan against Aizen?
Mr. Hisagi, I believe you have seen it before, though these are not comparable in size.
Wait a sec. These couldn't be a Tenkai Ketchu.
Looks like a Tenkai Ketchu.
Were those the pillars that you guys were protecting in Karakura Town?
Well, to be more precise, it was actually the fake Karakura town we had made in the Soul Society that we were protecting. In other words, you can think of the pillars that were erected around the area as devices that switched the town out.
Among the various bits of evidence that Yoruichi had obtained from the destroyed safe in the visual department, there had been several cylindrical spiritual tools that looked as though some sort of prototypes. On the way over, Kyoraku had taken them from Soifone and handed them to Mayuri.
It is a miniature derived from the real thing. Although this is beyond the Tsuneyashiro clan's skills. There are residuals that are Kisuke Urahara-like, but these do not look complete enough to be his work. I have also made something similar, but far better than these, of course. They imitated what they saw of Kisuke Urahara's prototype and attempted to mass-produce them, perhaps.
I think you're exactly right. Actually, former Captain Urahara made something similar to a transportation apparatus previously, but Old Man Yama asked what would happen if it got into enemy hands and didn't give us authorization to use it. I think Old Man Yama confiscated that sample and tried to put an end to it by sticking it in the vault of the Central First Ward.
You think that Tokonata guy stole it then?
It's likely. Though, he might have just openly used his influence to simply take it. Since it had already been leaked once, we probably should have lifted a ban and come up with a decent countermeasure against it instead. Well, I suppose we should have a meeting about that later. The real issue is what the head of the Tsuneyashiro family is trying to do with this.
You can't do much with just one of these. He might have been able to transport multiple people by getting 4 of them together. If he had a substantial number, then the conversation would be different. But of course, we would be able to tell if he had established many of these from the disturbance in the Reishi. Additionally, he would need to establish them in both locations. At the very least, we know he has not put them into operation within the Seirete.
In that case, what is Tokunada trying to switch out with what?
Karakura Town.
Huh? You're saying Kurosaki's involved in this thing too?
Just the opposite. Ichigo is far away from Karakura Town today, and it was right after he left that we stopped getting communication from the town.
Huh? What's that supposed to mean?
A strange boundary was put up around the town, and we can no longer open a Senkaimon. Apparently, it's also impossible to enter from the surrounding towns. Communication ceased at the same time Lieutenant Hisagi requested a Gentei Kaijo during his trip to Urahara Shoten for an interview. I think it would be impossible to conclude those events were not related.
Shuhei, I see, so that's why Kensei's here?
I was talking to Love over the Soul Pager, and apparently they haven't been able to get a hold of Hiyori after she went to work in Karakura Town. Hachi is trying to see if he can break through the boundary from the outside right now.
What is that idiot Hiyori doing? So, does it look like we'll be able to break through it? The boundary, I mean?
Apparently they use something completely different from Kido. He was saying it might be a variety of full burning.
What do you think?
Even if it's another ability that can lock things up, it's not Ririka's power. Based on what we've heard, it might be Yukio.
But I find it a bit suspicious that he has isolated an area as vast as a whole town.
Yeah, but I doubt he's not connected to this.
Well, regardless of whether this Yukio is involved or not, it's unlikely that Karakura Town isn't on one side of the Tenkai Ketchu. It's probable that the scope is pretty big.
It seems that the transport scope isn't focusing on the land so much as it is facing up.
The sky? They couldn't be thinking of transporting to Ryokyu, could they?
I think we should view that as an unlikely possibility. That neat freak Senjumaru Shutara would not allow something like that set up around the Ryokyu.
In that case, we should understand from this that there really is something where Tokunada ran off to. Do you already happen to know, Captain Kurotsuchi, where Tokunada and the child Hikune have gone?
Why are you going out of your way to ask me that when you already know the answer?
What? If you know, then just tell us already, Mayuri. That's kind of the most important detail here.
What is far more important is that even after 100 years, you still insist on using my first name as though we were equals.
What are you talking about? Oh, you are so annoying.
Since the Quincy and Arankar Corps units carry surveillance bacteria within them, I made the bacteria so that it automatically spreads to those that they fight. Naturally, everyone here is now a carrier.
Everyone in the room glared at Mayuri.
Yes, and we'll have you remove them later. Captain Kurotsuchi, do you know the location of the child Hikone?
Though the tracking signal itself has stopped, I have a rough location based on my usage of Bakuro number 58, Kakushi Tsuijaku. The specimen disappeared into the largest class of Valley of Screams in the Garganta. You should be grateful I am here. Normally this would be impossible, but I am able to create a path connecting us to it.
He then pulled 2 small black spheres from his chest pocket and threw them toward the end of the hall. The spheres instantly swelled and floated in the air, the reishi warping between them, creating a deeper sphere so jet black that it seemed to swallow light. It opened its maw in midair.
I can even do it immediately, right now.
A Valley of Screams?
Indeed. I looked into where this Tenkai Kachu transports to, but it is completely off the Soul Society or the Wako Mundo coordinates. If it is in the middle of the Garganta, then it's likely a Valley of Screams or a similar variety of space.
A Valley of Screams is one of those places that was supposed to have been used to exile a family that had committed a major crime back in the day.
Indeed. They were left behind in a place that a hell butterfly cannot reach. Compared to exile in the world of the living, it is a harsh sentence.
But why there? Something as small as this couldn't possibly transport... Oh, wait. How many more people do you sense who are carrying the same objects as these guys?
There are too many to count.
Supposing about 700,000 people all had these things, and they met up in Karakura Town, what could they accomplish?
I doubt that many of them are gathering in Karakura. But, well, yes. If they focus on gathering in the town and the ones neighboring us. When the shop manager prepared the pillars before, he moved the whole area of Karakura town. They wouldn't be able to get that far, but they might be able to accomplish something very close.
That's no joke. I don't know what they're planning, but it doesn't seem like it'll come to any good. Mr. Tessai, would you be able to use the pillars to somehow send me to those coordinates?
It's not like you'd be able to do anything on your own.
Even if I can't, going is the only option I have.
Are you going because you want to save that baldy Kisuke? Don't bother. The thing he hates the most is when the weak push themselves too hard in situations like these.
I know I'm out of my league. I'm not just going for Mr. Urahara. And if it comes down to it, I'll leave Mr. Urahara behind.
What?
It's because I'm a Soul Reaper.
Don't say you're doing this for the Seirite or something. Are you really gonna cross a bridge this dangerous because of them?
I'm not doing it for some aristocrats. Is it my own pride, thinking that I'm the protector of the world? No. Am I doing this for Kanazawa, since she was killed by a hollow, or for my allies who died in the war? No. Am I doing this for the people who will follow in our place? No. Am I doing this for the cheap sense of satisfaction that I risked my life to fight? No. Then what?
I just don't get it. Why are you going? Aren't you scared?
I am scared. To be honest, the chances of my winning in a fight are pitiable. But I'm definitely going.
Like I said, why?
I'm not sure.
What the hell? You don't know? Are you an idiot?
I don't have a reason or anything. It's just that if I withdraw now, if I run from being a Soul Reaper, I feel like the spirit inside me that I inherited from Captain Tosin will vanish completely.
I really have no clue what you're saying. I can't believe someone like you would hold a high and mighty position at the Seirite Bulletin.
I'm sorry. I know I'm being immature.
In that case, I'll go too.
Huh?
I mean, Karakura Town is really gonna end up in trouble, right? In that case, Shino and I won't come away unscathed either way.
Aren't you scared?
Yes, I am super terrified. If somebody told me I could run, I'd take Shino and go. Oh, but we can't run since there's a barrier. Now I'm out of options.
Why are you only decisive when you're saying something embarrassing?
But if we have no other possibilities, I think all I can do is be a decoy while I flee. And I was thinking that it'd be better if I just went alone.
What are you saying? You're weak and an idiot. If you're going, then I'm obviously going too.
This girl is Madarame's sister, right? I get it now. Even the younger Soul Reapers have got it in them. I'm glad I've got juniors like you, Ryunosuke Yuki, Shino Madarame.
You know my name?
It's an honor, Lieutenant Hisagi.
But your work is patrolling the town. I don't know what might happen around here, but there's no way to fight it if no one's around to respond. You've got to do your own job first, got it?
Oh,
yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
You're scolding others for throwing away their lives when that's exactly what you're planning to do? I hate that about Soul Reapers. Okay. Oh well. I can't stand being in debt to Kisuke. I'll go with you.
That won't work.
What? Why not, you baldy Tessai?
Tessai dodged Hiyori's fist and continued explaining.
There is currently a barrier around this town. It is likely that if several 100,000 of these Tenkai Kachus are activated, we could invoke a ceremony that would ignore the barrier. But using normal methods, we would not be able to push through with the amount we currently have.
Then how are you saying we should do it?
We can see the barrier as something that reacts to Soul Reapers and Kido abilities, but its reaction to the hollow factor is muted. Therefore, a good plan would be if we were to use some potent hollow power to break through it by force.
You're saying you want me to be the battery that runs that weird device?
Miss Hiyori, I wouldn't mind putting a formal request to the owner of the Unagiya shop you work at to borrow your powers.
Fine. You owe me a ton in exchange, though.
I am grateful. I will set up a formation around Mr. Hisagi, so if you can load in your spiritual pressure from outside, Miss Hiyori.
Hiyori nodded and then drove Yuki, Shino, Jinta, and Ururu out of the way. After Tessai made the formation, Hiyori pulled a white mask onto her face.
Keep back. If you get hit by my spiritual pressure, you might end up goners.
Miss Sarugaki, thank you.
I'm not doing this for your Kisuke. It's a job.
I'm on the clock after all.
Tessai controlled the spiritual pressure that flowed from Hiyori using Kido and poured it into the miniature Tenkai Ketchu that were placed around Hisagi.
It seems that this is set up not to switch out the ground, but to exchange things from above the barrier. I will sync the coordinates onto you. Since we are forcing you to break through to your destination, coordinates aside, time for you might shift off axis from a range of a few minutes to up to a half an hour. I will try to tune things so that it isn't shifted too greatly, however.
Thanks.
I'm leaving the shop owner in your care.
Tessai lowered his head as he put the finishing touches on the ritual. In the next moment, light engulfed Hisagi's body and melted into the landscape.